Best of 5 finals from the Kung Fu Cuparino, which is back. It's really good that this event is back every single Thursday, $400 on the Korean server, and we get all the best Korean players taking part. As we, unfortunately, at the time on Thursday, I had to go to DreamHack rehearsal, so I wasn't able to actually catch this final live. So I'm going to cast this final from the replays that they sent me as we start off in the top right-hand side. The blue Protoss player from Dragon Phoenix Gaming is PartinG. And he's taking on the red Terran in the bottom left. Let's hear it if you're cheering on Cure, also from Dragon Phoenix Gaming. Game 1 of a best of 5 series as we get this up, running, started, and look to see what will happen over the next little while. I think a series that's very, very exciting in general. PartinG is obviously very, very good. We all know that. Cure has consistently been top level this year as well. And while he maybe doesn't always, he's had the results to really show up and be like, hey, yeah, look at me. The last time these guys played only a couple of weeks ago, and it was actually a 7-game series in a best of 7, as PartinG came out on top of Cure there. And the last time they played before that was back in April this year, when PartinG came on top 2-1 in a Wardy TV event. They did play each other in one of these Kung Fu Cups earlier this year as well. That's when actually it was Cure to come through for the victory. I feel like that was back in like March or so. And it's really been a while since that happened. So, PartinG has definitely developed a lot since March. Cure has obviously kind of come a long way since March as well. But actually, on a way, Cure has almost done more since March, but has also dropped off a bit since March. Like, it's such a weird state for Cure. He made it all the way to that GSL finals, but he isn't quite that dominant online machine that we saw him being at the start of the year, where he was just like, if you were playing Cure online, you were probably just going to lose. There was no two ways about it. So very, very interesting in the end. So yeah, this is a TVP. Best of 5 as well in this finals. I just want to take a quick moment to obviously say we're casting this one kind of with the intention of putting it on YouTube. So if you are out there on the YouTubes, first of all, thank you so much. We hit 1 million channel views during the month of August, which is freaking amazing as a statistic. Like, that boggles my mind. So thank you so much for that. And of course, if you are watching, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to hit that like button. And I'll keep on cranking out the StarCraft 2 for y'all. Now, we do have a 3rd CC already coming up from Cure in the main base. So he's actually gone high ground expand to begin. And then he's going to go 3rd CC behind this too. So PartinG is playing very safe because this wall off of Cure, it could be anything. It could be a proxied factory. There's really so many options. And PartinG is playing right into Cure's hands right now because Cure has forced him to play very defensively, investing in an early shield battery, and staying at home. When in reality, Cure is all about that economy. 3 bases. Yeah, okay, this CC has to lift off and go to the low ground, and that takes a little while to set up, but in general, this is a very good setup as our hallucination from PartinG continues down to the bottom left-hand side. So off and away and down it goes as the Stargate's setting up in the main base. Couple Marines here going to tag away at this hallucinated Phoenix. That's going to take just a little bit of extra damage. The factory about to finish up as again flying over the top of that orbital command. And just going to be seeing a starport from Cure on the way as well as a couple of Marines continuing to push the hallucination away up that left-hand side. I do see the Reaper out on the watchtower, and man, look how defensive PartinG was. Even a shield battery in the main base. The fact he's just seen that this is 3CC, he's kind of like, Shibal! Because he knows for a fact that he's kind of behind where he would like to be from this sort of setup. What I'm really interested in is what the hell does Cure do going from this point on? Because Cure is obviously playing very defensively on 3 bases initially and so on. What sort of game does he play? Because this is Eternal Empire, and it is the kind of map where it can be difficult to attack into 3 bases of your opponent. So unless he can get some good tank setups, is this just already Cure making a bid for like a late game? I mean, I know it may be early to start talking about that, but you got to think about the possibilities of what he can do here. As right now, he's adding a tech lab to the starport. Is he just going to set up a Marine tank Banshee? Is he going to add a Raven? Looks like the Raven's a good possibility, right? Man, Marine tank Banshee off of a 3CC setup would be kind of wild, though. It is just going to be the Raven. It's a very safe opener altogether, right? You get a tank, you get a few Marines, those are good fighting units. You get the Raven, which is a good support and utility unit. As this Rax is going to lift off and move over to the tech lab, with the other Rax going down from here. He's just going to move straight into bio from here. So this is a very kind of utility, defensive, defensive focused setup. Making sure he has the tools to deal with anything that might come his way, which obviously makes a lot of sense. And yeah, just getting into a good little position for that. There's a couple of SCVs going down. This Oracle came as a bit of a surprise. I think the last thing Cure was expecting right now was an Oracle. But hey, 5 workers. That definitely helps put PartinG back to where he maybe should be. 6 worker lead, I mean, we're usually talking about an 8 to 10 worker lead for a Protoss player. And this obviously was a very early triple mule as well, so it's still good for Q, but it definitely helps PartinG get back on track after an opening that wasn't so hard. He adds on 3 extra gates here with the blink, but I don't expect that to be all too aggressive or anything. Yes, the Stalkers might take map control and so, but this is not 4 gates and blink right away, right? It is all after a Stargate, and that in general just slows everything down. By the time you get aggressive here as PartinG, there's going to be stim done, and there's very little opportunity for aggressive Stalkers to really be game-changing outside of just holding map control out the front. Oracle of PartinG wants to fly in, and that's going to be a dead SCV on the refinery already. With this, Oracle still looking for more. I like it. This Oracle's done a pretty good job of staying active in the game. Comes back in, right, and the other thing you get here is a full scout of the main, right? You see, okay, 3 racks now, upgrades on the way. Only 1 upgrade, though. You see the starport reactor timing, too. So PartinG gets a really good read of where everything is at from the Terran player. You compare that to where Q is at, he knows nothing. Like, he doesn't know if this is going to be Colossi, he doesn't know it's Blink Stalkers, he doesn't know if it's a rush like something crazy like Storm, he don't know if DTs are about to show up, although that would be really surprising. He's just playing blind, but he's playing kind of like a catch-all style, right? Where whatever is going to come out of PartinG here, tanks and bio units and a Raven will generally keep him safe enough to just get through to the next stage of the game anyway, where he can identify what style it is, and where he can start to make adjustments to the army. Earlier Ghost if it's very Zealot and, Archon focused. Or maybe a second starport if he wants to try and deal with Colossi that are on the way up. So I kind of like it as a couple SCVs go down to the Oracle, which now also falls to those few Marines. And here we go with the units moving up this ramp. We're going to see double order turret dropped instantly. And he loses a siege tank. He has stim. He's missing the medevacs, I guess, to keep these units healed up. But yeah, the double order turret really just says, get out of here, PartinG. I do not want you to, fight me right now. I think an anti-armor missile would have had a similar effect. Not sure which exactly is a little bit better. I think maybe the anti-armor missile is just a little bit more random, whereas the order turret's absolutely like a I can stand my ground right here and right now sort of thing. As he catches an observer as well. Not sure if he scanned and then just saw the observer and it was initially out of range of the Raven or what. Obviously, he didn't really need to scan if that Raven was on top of it. So I imagine it was maybe it was just out of range of the Raven. It wasn't catching it or something along those lines. Anyway, the important news is the observer got taken down. So a little bit less vision for PartinG, who makes his way into that typical next step charge, as well as a Robo Bay and a second facility. So we will see Colossi-based play. Obviously, the potential to add disruptors in as well is always going to be scary and a real viable option in these sort of games as well. As we do have the Prism out over to the far left-hand side. We've got a Zealot Stalker Sentry Force. Oh, going to drop some good force fields, actually, and those are in some really nice positions. Just going to be keeping these units up the high ground for the moment. As there's the 2 disruptor storms. So we're going to go disruptors initially, and it's already a Dark Shrine coming down. As PartinG goes up to a 4th base, I really feel like he's already adding in a lot of the tools he needs for later in this game to really make this a late game play. I think he's saying, I'm not going to kill you on 3 bases. You're going to be very well defended, so let's go later. Let's get my harassment ready. Warp Prism Speed is going to help me move around the map. This Dark Shrine. I can get Shadow Stride already. That can add on a lot of harassment potential. I like the ideas that PartinG has. He's not afraid to say, hey, you know what? Let's play late. Because I think he's got a pretty good read on the idea that Kua maybe wants to play late as well, because Kua is still yet to make any attempt to truly move on the map. This is his first time leaving his bases with anything more than a scouting unit early in the game, right? So, here we go. So we'll find a Stalker to start. No low ground base here, and that's information that Kua is only just picking up on. So, safer high ground base from PartinG. He's going to have shield batteries finishing in time to help also. Now, as he sees this army out over here, he's going to make the play with the Prism. The Riddick Drive is done. He kind of flies into further missile turrets, so there's only 2 Zealots to get out. That's obviously less than ideal, as we see the rest of the bio pulling back down the bottom side. We do just have the Marines and the Marauders able to come in, cleaning out a few extra Zealots, and doing a pretty decent job of this. The bio army of Kua sitting out down on the watchtowers. We'll see more Zealots of PartinG out down at the bottom right-hand side. Just going to be seeing the 4th base of Kua. Coming across, coming through, a couple of SCVs also setting up, and that will be a missile turret. Dropping down here again. Command Center going to morph into a planetary fortress already. The couple of tanks getting ready to go. It's actually quite a few tanks setting up on this bottom side, as we'll see the Zealots of PartinG setting up. As that observer just about escapes away. I love that PartinG already has the counterattack ready. He knows what he wants to do here, but boy oh boy, does Kyo just not want to move out on this map. Kyo wants to have like 10 ghosts, 20 Vikings and libs, and he just wants to, you know, fight from at home. Right? He wants Partin to push into him and do that Partin thing where he attacks, and he never stops attacking, and he just trades very badly because at some point you probably should have stopped attacking, you know? So, yeah, this is really, I think, a scenario where Kyo just has no interest in really being overly aggressive. And in a way, that's why I kind of like that Partin is here with these zealots just in case. But it was also like, it's very free to just put these zealots here because there's no pressure on you, so you're not really missing the supply that's put into those zealots or the money. So it only makes sense, and also means that if you start to get aggressive and you do start to take those fights, maybe you pull the army out of position, and maybe that's when you have a chance to immediately hit a base in the bottom right at the same time, and maybe that's where the real amount of damage actually comes from. Is that's a wall off, that's an EMP, and there's going to be 2 tanks behind it, so there's just no way you're going to get up that ramp, and this is why Partin will struggle to do much else here, as another Stargate comes down, goes into that fleet beacon as a follow-up, so we are just seeing Partin just expediting his late game as well. I mean, I almost said it earlier, right? When that Dark Shrine came down, it felt like he was already preparing for late game. And now even more so. I mean, you know, there's definitely kind of levels of greed here. And I'd say for the most part, this is super greedy from Partin, but it's totally fine and regular considering what Kira is setting up for. So we've got ourselves a bit of a passive game right now. And it'll be interesting to see how Kyo stands up against that later game Protoss army, because a lot of players are saying, you know, it's very difficult to play later game TVP. You know, just with DTs able to blink in and like almost like 2-shot down planetary fortresses, you've got to leave so many units at home defensively to not take that damage. Very interesting to see this kind of taken to the later stages from Kyo's own want, right? It's Kyo that didn't put any pressure on here early or anything along those lines. As a scan up the top side, we'll see the recall, so he's going to force a reposition of the army. And this quad drop is fairly successful in its initial job of just kind of making sure Partin isn't fighting. And again, all this time, right, is Q getting more command centers up, so more economy, more of a bank to rebuild off of, more production, further upgrades. I mean, yes, a lot of that is still true from Partin as well. But from the Terran point of view right now, you want to just go into like a ton of command centers. You want to just mine a hell of a lot. You know, because again, you're looking for the long game. You're looking for to let this go by for quite some time. I do get worried though, because Partin's doing the exact right thing too. He's investing in static defense, making sure his bases aren't going to die to like a silly little drop or so. And so you can focus on having that one kind of larger death bally army with the, you know, hit squads out on the map as well if Q does start to make a push. And I feel like at some point here soon, there's got to be something of an idea from Q as to what he wants to do. I mean, he's adding on extra Ghost Academies. I guess he's going to set up for nukes. I do wonder as well how much these two have played against each other recently, because obviously they are teammates, and so they would be the kind of the first go-to in terms of practice partners if Partin wants to practice versus Terran or Kyo wants to practice versus Protoss. So there might be something kind of involved in that as well, right? Where there is absolutely potential that they've played, maybe not recently, but like 2 or 3, you know, in the last couple of weeks. There's maybe some reason to practice a little bit, and maybe that's why they kind of know what each other are playing or how they want to play, and that's why we're seeing what is kind of a rare setup for a game between the two of them. Again, the map really plays into it a lot as well. This is a full energy Raven, by the way, which is... Oh my god, that Disruptor hit so much! The full energy Raven hit a Matrix. I mean, he's going to follow through and kill pretty much every Disruptor, and that's nice. But he lost a lot of bio in the process. Zealots and DTs are going to blink in for this planetary fortress. He actually turns around with the DTs. He says it's not worth it. Enough bio there to shut me down. And not even needing the scan because there was double missile turret in range. So I like it, saving the DTs, just trading out a few Zealots. Those are very expendable at this stage of the game for sure. Now DTs over here could blink on top of these units though. They will, but the EMP was really good to start. Doesn't matter. And a full medevac gets shot down. I love that this Raven is still alive, though I do wonder how much value you can get out of it. Is that extra little something to babysit when you're moving around with this army? And I feel like right now, Kyo could definitely do with just less things to have to babysit. This army's already becoming very complex. And that one Raven additionally is, again, just that little bit extra. Would like to see an SCV repairing it, though. Definitely could do with a few more hit points, that's for sure. Stalking DTs want to move in. Ooh, ho, ho. Those are nice EMPs, though. Oh, loses 2 ghosts. He needs to really capitalize on that. I felt like it was a nice setup once again by Kyo, but this time he wasn't able to really capitalize. And the other Disruptor is going to come off cooldown, so Kyo knows it's not worth chasing. His DTs are going to hit his base. This time they do blink in, but the tank fire is good, and that's going to be a cleanup. That's actually a really swift cleanup as well. Nicely done by Cure. He's not taking much damage from these DTs just yet. You see that resources lost already stacking up in Cure's favor, and that is going to be the case if PartinG trades with these DTs. Of course, the idea is these DTs are going to stop you getting off of 5 bases of the Terran player, while PartinG is on 6 bases to go into 7 in the top left corner. So these DTs, they're not meant to trade efficiently, but they're meant to trade to stop any further eco being taken. So this base should be a real point of contention, because you shouldn't, as the Protoss player, let this go up. If you let this go up, you're kind of letting the Terran player have the economy they need to just outplay you and outmine you and outbuild you throughout the rest of the game. It's going to be an interesting standoff, because obviously we've got a Protoss base on that high ground. We've got the Terran on this low ground. Hits the EMPs to push the DTs back pretty quickly. I mean, PartinG's actual kind of ground army doesn't look ridiculous, because there's 19 DTs on the map. He's building carriers behind it, so a lot of his army supply is caught up in Dark Templar and carriers. And now you've got the, everything else. I mean, it's just kind of... It's not that much, right? A few Stalkers and Disruptors. But obviously what he does have, I mean, this army is super valuable for PartinG. Very expensive. That's going to be a siege tank dead in the bottom corner. I'm actually going to push up over here. EMPs to get rid of some of the shield batteries. Trying to help defend, but here come the carriers. I mean, they're on their own. It would be the perfect time for the Vikings to have shown up. There was not actually any real anti-air there bar the cannons, so... Yeah, and that's maybe something that's missing for PartinG, right? Potentially the Storm would be pretty a pretty nice addition. I know he's not really playing a Templar Archive sort of style at all, but obviously at this sort of stage, the late game Protoss army generally is supported by Storm, and for good reason, because that Storm is just so good against the Vikings, and it stops them from just clumping up and target firing down carriers after carriers. Kind of depends how these fights go. Maybe PartinG's going to test the waters initially and go from there. I actually wonder if there's even enough Vikings. I actually see some libs being added on. I like that. Not really so much for the zoning that the Liberators may provide, but I actually quite like the idea of even just Liberators against the Interceptors. Right? Anything that does splash damage to those Interceptors is only going to help remove them from the game a little bit more. So I wouldn't mind to see like 5 or 6 libs. Help fight the Interceptors. We're going to see high ground vision gains so that this Ghost can actually nuke. PartinG is seemingly aware of it. Oh, he actually doesn't see it. He knows where the nuke is. He just doesn't know where the Ghost is. There's a cute low ground position. As he is going to land that one, and now he's going to land one a little bit more aggressively into the center here. We'll see if the Disruptors can find it. PartinG's just not quite finding the Ghost at all. And now he's going to get nuked to the top side as well. So nuke's landing on multiple sides of the map. One on that right side, one on the top. All the cannons getting picked away out there. Just going to be seeing the extra nukes continuing through. And 5 more missile turrets in production. Bit of bio going to chase down a Dark Templar that gets cleaned out pretty much immediately. That's taken down without too much issue. Alright, so just going to see these few medevacs through to the center. Everything gathering up together. Stalkers, carriers, disruptors. All of this joining up and getting going as you do see our command center of Cure out in the bottom left-hand side. A lot of orbitals continuing to set up from Cure across the bottom of the map as well. And still just seeing PartinG continue to move around in the middle. Now on the left-hand side, we've got a Nexus. On that 9 o'clock position, we do have double medevac unloading to the upper left, so maybe a push into that top left corner. Zealots and DTs come charging on through, and that's going to be a bunch of bio units getting cleaned out. I like this though. I mean, Cure finally going elsewhere on the map. PartinG hasn't had to worry defensively at all in this game, right? And he set up the stack defense to worry about it, right? He's done the correct thing earlier in the game preparing for this, but this is the first time he's actually had to send units up here. Maybe that buys Cure some time to set up himself, right? He has got the bottom right being taken now, being established. A few more Liberators, a few more Vikings on the way. And it's going to come down to this big fight. What I am worried about is that PartinG just has like an 8k, 4k bank. And Cure has like gas, but he's not got that many minerals. I mean, a lot of his money right now is being spent on missile turrets. He's putting a lot of command centers on the map. That's obviously very important too, right? You know, those are things that are only going to help him later. So there's an investment there, and obviously with mules, the Terran can get a lot of minerals very quickly. So it's not the biggest concern. I'm just worried about the fact that PartinG is just going to be able to rebuild no matter what anyway. 7 workers going down as the nukes are landing. And they're actually connected on not just stack defense, but some workers as well. DTs get up over here, and it's a little bit of a trade out. See, one more nuke going to land to clean up these stack defenses, and then there's the drop on the top side, which is going to try and get a cannon, but Super Battery's already back and active again. as the carriers are going to show up on this high ground. That's going to mean that these interceptors are going to get to work. The Vikings will target down one carrier right away, though. The carriers are just targeting the Vikings. The Vikings don't have that much support. The Goats on the low ground. The Libs are a little bit late to that fight, and I think we're going to need some big repairs on those Vikings before we fight again. Not a bad start, though, for Kyo, considering that's the first time he's really skirmished with the carriers. Gives me some hope, because he definitely came out of that in better terms. He didn't really lose anything while killing a carrier or two. I think that's generally a pretty good way to get going, but 5 carriers building at once. I mean, this air style is obviously a huge commitment from PartinG, but I mean, Kyo's respecting it. He is building pretty much purely Vikings and air units himself. This Ghost is uncloaked, will go down easily. This one's kind of protected by the Terran army in general, so it is going to survive, as it's a good nuke to take down a few structures, that's for sure. You can see our Libs and our Vikings still coming through. We've got a little bit of a recoil to the left side, so PartinG's going to change the direction of attack, and obviously Kyo is very well set up over here. A lot of missile turrets, etc., but what does that matter? I mean, it does expose this base, which Kyo's not really doing much about, because I mean, he doesn't actually have that much bio, right? All of his bio is actually going to have to come over here to fight this, as he does start to fight those interceptors, and he will push this away. Using the Libs as kind of air-to-ground defense, he's going to get another few probes here. Really just skating the edge of the base. Man, if there's just a little bit of bio that showed up in this position, that would be cute. Again, there's just not that much bio on the map, though. There's 8 bio units plus Ghosts. It's because there's 34 Vikings and 9 Liberators, so take that for what you will. As you just see our Stalkers, Carriers going to come through, taking down this base. I'm just going to be seeing the Liberators continue to push forward up the left-hand side. I see a bit of bio Ghost Army continue to push through as well. Lib's going to continue setting up. There's a lot of Vikings that are going to fly up here, and they're going to start engaging into these. Oh my god, the EMPs are massive. Well, the Vikings are going to go for the carriers. I mean, Disruptors barely have anything to shoot. Like I was saying, there's barely anything on the ground anyway. PartinG's supply is plummeting. What I'm worried about is the Stalker rebuild, because I actually don't think there's anything to really deal with Stalkers right now. Like, if there was enough Liberators on, shooting the ground, then sure, but maybe actually needs some bio reinforcements. And that's the power of PartinG's bank, just comes instantly into play. He still has a carrier count, which is scary as well. I see another nuke over here. I mean, this Ghost has killed so many buildings. I mean, those nukes have been super successful as pushing through. Again, I just don't think there's an answer to the Zealot Stalker army on the ground. Kyo's had to build into so much anti-air that he just didn't actually have a response at all for the rebuild into ground units. There's another nuke down the line. I mean, I feel at this point Kyo's almost just nuking this space as his one and only hope. But he's going to start losing the bottom right side of the map. He had to pull back. He had to wait to rebuild. That's the issue with fighting over here. It was so close to the Terran bases that Kyo had to just pull away and give PartinG so much space while he waited for production. I mean, what you meant to do when the bases that they're fighting over are in the middle of the map? I don't know if there's a better place to really fight without being super deep in Protoss territory, which is hard to get to. I mean, you can just see PartinG has the money in the bank still. Kyo is struggling for minerals. There's going to be seeing these Liberators going to do what they can. Siege up to help on the ground army. There's a few Marines that get fully surrounded. Vikings are just targeting down interceptors. The carriers are going to be out of interceptors. And that's going to be a recall to save them, though. And man, there's just so many tools in this Protoss army. There's 22 Zealots just warped in. Are you kidding me? That's disgusting. Protoss, get out of my game. I can't watch this any longer. I guess Q would get out of this game because I don't think PartinG does. I don't think PartinG's the one that has to leave, but oh my god, 22 Zealot warp in. That's actually a pretty nice fight. The 22 Zealots just melted to EMPs and Vikings. But what stops PartinG from just warping in 22 more Zealots? And now the carriers are going to have their interceptors back, so they're going to be back in the fight. He warps in 7 DTs and 15 Stalkers. Okay, it's a very quick way to spend your bank, but the Terran just can't compete with that level of production. There's just no way. Resource loss is pretty even soon. I don't think you necessarily mind more than PartinG did in this game, considering PartinG has the 3 o'clock and the 9 o'clock. And now that Viking count is really going to go down. The carriers coming back into play really is just a game ender. And, well played game from PartinG. It really felt like defensively he was on point. There was a few nukes that slipped through and did okay. But in general, he had a very good idea of where he wanted to go. He played greedily into Q's greed. And he knew that Q wanted to play the late game, and he really kind of, played into that, I think. And I think that was part of the reason for his success story here. And he really did not waste any time at hitting this amazing army composition where it's like, okay, I've got a lot of carriers up, I've got the DTs to harass. He just had all the tools, and like I said, it's kind of weird to see a Terran player kind of accepting going to that stage of the game against a Protoss. And honestly, PartinG just kind of showed us why. GG's. And PartinG takes the first map. Starting off down in the bottom left-hand side, leading the series 1-0. Our Blue Protoss player from Dragon Phoenix Gaming is PartinG. And he really just played a nice, clean late game. Really was under no pressure at all. Was allowed to get there. And he kind of showed the power of... Honestly, I'm not even sure if the power of the army was that great, because I feel like his army died a couple times over, but what was really true is just the power of rebuilding when you have like an 8k, 4k bank, and that's why I think Kua, Red Terran top right, really needed to make a bid to shut down a lot of those other bits and pieces of the game a lot more quickly. Like, I feel like he needed more harassment, he needed PartinG to spend more money, because you can't just, even if you're just trading out with cannons and stuff, you can't, just anything to stop him building up 8,000 minerals in the bank. You know? Anything to stop that much money being available. Because when he's warping in 22 gateway units at once on the rebuild, you just can't really do that. You just can't really make that work. Alrighty, so as we set up here, a couple of SCVs coming through. This probe is going to turn around and go in for the couple of SCVs here. Couple SCVs fighting, just going to see the Rax is about to finish up. It's going to be a Reaper on the way out from Kua. So Reaper already on the way out from Kua, just going to have our probe still patrol on the right-hand side. And the SCV is going to make its way out down to the lower left. So yeah, Reaper setting up. A couple of SCVs coming in. Probes are being chased around. We're going to see this command center from Kua dropping down into the natural expansion. Another depot being placed. And this cyber core going to finish in, again, just the next few moments. A little bit of building up. Not really a lot to go on. Not really a lot to talk about just yet. As we do see the Marine coming in from Kura as well in that main base. Warpgate setting up on the cyber core. Going to have our Adept continue to chrono boost out. Just going to be seeing our Nexus also building up here as well. So just kind of Nexus up and running. Just going to be seeing our bunker builder from Kira on the natural expansion as well. Adept coming through, and the Reaper is going to be backing off a little bit. The Adept is going to from PartinG go to the upper right-hand side. Do you have that warp gate already building on the cyber core? It's a nice little grenade from the Reaper to pop the few probes around. A Twilight Council into the back of this main base. As Kira continues away to the upper right. Yeah, I mean, so far so good. That warp gate coming up about halfway done. The factory's about to complete from Kua. And again, the Adept is coming around. And he's going to be able to pick off the SCV. So SCV will fall. The other SCV taking a little bit of damage as well. And the Adept going to get up this high ground. Is just going to shade on home. Again, just picking up whatever info is possible. I mean, obviously this game, no 3CC or anything. And this time, no Stargate from PartinG. So very different setup to the game. Here on Everdream, definitely a map where you can see some Blink Stalker pressure. It's going to be straight to the Dark Shrine. PartinG making use of this proxied pylon in the lower right. So he wants to go to Dark Templar immediately. Now, Kira opened Raven last game, but obviously again, very different setup. Initially, at the very least, this is a Widowmine drop. So we'll see if he ends up going into a Raven here. You know, that's going to be in about a minute's time. Honestly, even if he goes into a Raven, it's not really going to be out in time for DTs because this is such a fast DT play. Oh, this is actually really interesting. This is really interesting, right? We've got an armory coming up from Kira in the main. So he's actually going to go for more than just the Widowmine drops. In that case, he's definitely not going for a Raven. If you're going to go for the armory, you're typically going to keep building. Oh, he goes double tech lab. Maybe? Maybe he goes Raven. I think, though, if you go armory, typically you actually want to go for like a more medevacs and more mines. I'm kind of surprised. I'm in that case, I'm interested to see what the armory is for, if it's for more than just the Widowmine cloaking. Because this feels like a big investment, you know, that 100 gas just to get these two Widowmines cloaked. That feels like a big, like, investment in a big, oh, what if I can do a lot? He will go to a Raven, he will start a missile turret. So Kira has a good read on at least what's going on. He's made a good call there. So he shouldn't just die to the DTs. And then I guess we'll see what this Widowmine drop's going to do. Again, PartinG pretty safe early. Really invest into a shield battery in the main base, just making sure he's okay. And just one Widowmine. There's actually an observer about to spawn, so that will be out momentarily. And again, right now, you're really just hoping to slow down as much mine as possible. That's 5 probes, though. That's pretty nice. Where's our War Prism at? Just parked on the right side. Hasn't struck just yet. I mean, this Widow Mine is dancing. And this is really nice, actually, from Kure. For just 2 Widow Mines, he's delayed a lot of mine time. He won't get any extra kills there, but the mine time he delayed, I think, was absolutely worthwhile. Because now our DT's shown up, but turrets are here. Auto turret is available from the Raven if you need a bit more damage output. And he is going to be fine. So these DTs, well, should be deflected, but these Marines are on their own. I was maybe expecting this this War Prism to go elsewhere. Not the case. As, well, PartinG gets a few kills in the end, so he's getting some value out of the DTs at least after it didn't initially look all so great, did it? Looked a little messy initially, in fact. The medevac actually stays alive and is actually going to be spotting the 3rd base of PartinG, so good information gained from the fact this medevac's just still up and running, basically. Archon's coming around. Going to be seeing the Viking putting some damage onto this prism as it gets pushed away. Good defense still from Kure, right? He's defended the DTs, he's defended the follow-up Archon drop. And now PartinG making his way in towards Colossi. And Kure kind of knows what's up. You know, he saw the timing on the 3rd base. He knows it's not a super fast 3rd or anything, which is pretty typical. It's hard to hold a super fast 3rd off of a DT opener. You just don't really have the utility on your gateway units to kind of justify a 3rd base so quick. So you take it a bit later, and you know, then you have some tech units out by the time a Terran comes to push it. It also just allows you to go into like the Robo Bay and the Colossi while also still, you know, adding on the extra DT for an extra Archon and all that kind of stuff. Is Bio collecting up on the ramp at the moment. Is going to be moving out the front here, so a bit of Bio coming out the front and just going to be seeing what's up. Charge about to finish from PartinG. And just going to be seeing our extra gateways coming through as well. So PartinG getting into the next step of this, our hallucination kind of flying in, and medevac being tagged around just a little bit. +1 armor on the engineering base, stimming combat shields. Going to be finishing up again in just a few moments time. And again, this Colossus from PartinG is going to be finishing and rallying out the front in just the next couple of moments. +1 attack is on the way up. That extended thermal lance is going to complete very soon as well. And a shadow stride from PartinG out in the bottom right-hand corner. Also going to be beginning as our 4th nexus from PartinG sets up in the bottom of the map. We've got a couple of depots of Kure away to the left-hand side. I'm going to be seeing +2 attack, +1 armor. Engineering base continuing through. Yeah, just waiting to get into the next stage of this as we do have our army from PartinG up and away out the left. And Bio army from Kure just continuing to set up at the moment. We're going to see PartinG ready to fight then. I mean, into these siege tanks, is there really much opportunity to take a trade? I don't really think so. Yeah. Colossi just going to pick away these SCVs. Again, the depots will drop in the next couple moments. Just go down. Kure's actually going to get supply blocked from this. That's a pretty sizable supply block as well as Kure pauses, but obviously we're casting replays, so good for us. We don't have to sit through the pause. I don't have to kill time. Man, I do feel like once again though, like PartinG's just getting away. It's going into Shadow Strike, like just building up into late game 4 bases, and what is Kure doing? He's just sitting at home. I mean, I understand this is a scary Protoss army to attack into, but is there really nothing he can do other than sit back? Because I feel like that's just a problem through and through, for sure. Medevac sealing up the Marauders, and again, the rest of the Bio still gathering together up on this high ground. We do have +2 attack about to finish on both sides. And Disruptor's still producing as well. Another Robo facility about to finish up. Another Forge on the way. PartinG will move out into the center. We've got Zealots around the top side. Maybe ready for a run into these SCVs. couple of force fields going down. See the Bioarmy trying to take a fight. I mean, it's a good start. Archon's getting picked away at, and he's going to get a good position on the third base. But then the DTs, not even DTs yet, it's Zealot's showing up. There are DTs in the natural. They get dealt with pretty well. You have to abandon the third, but so does PartinG. So I actually don't think this is also bad for Cure, who's on a supply lead pushing into this. PartinG does have Disruptors to maybe try and save the day a little bit. Initial shots don't do too much. He'll lose the space. I'm just worried that PartinG has bases everywhere. Like, he's got one up here, he's got one down here. So, I mean, that's a little bit wild as Zealots continue to swipe and fight. I'm going to chase. Going to see the Vikings continuing through. We do have... Honestly, this army looks terrifying from Cure. He's just going to keep on jumping in on top of this Protoss army. The Colossi can get a lot of kills. This DT's ready to jump in on this. Is there a way PartinG holds this off? Cure's got a lot of money he isn't spending. His reinforcements are going to show up in a moment or two. Super Battery actually didn't do all that much. Oh, whoa, whoa. Disruptors are going to get a connection on the left side. It's not a bad start. I guess the Vikings are going to be nullified once this Colossus goes down. The Disrupt on the right, actually, not a bad start to that one either. And actually, I think PartinG might clean this up. I mean, the Vikings land to try and help out. The extra round of Zealots might just make the difference because these Medivacs are not connected with everything else. The Zealots come back from the third base. What? The Zealots come back from the third base and just help to clean up, and that is it? Wow, Kira just, I mean, he's not mining the third base, I guess. Did he actually lose the orbital? No. It's just floating. I mean, PartinG has these bases. I mean, he is down, don't get me wrong. It just happens so quickly. GG. PartinG going to go up 2-0, but I actually didn't think that game was going to end in PartinG's favor so quickly. But man, he actually just really shut down that fight in the end. With the Zealots coming back and everything, there was just not the units there from Cure to properly fight it. And PartinG will go up 2-0 in this Kung Fu Cup final. As we've got ourselves on Submarine for map number 3. In the top left-hand side, off to a 2-0 lead is PartinG. He's going to go 12 pylons. So that's a super, super quick pylon. This pretty much means he's going to go for the fastest possible gateway because he doesn't even build a probe at the start of the game. So super aggressive from PartinG here on a very small map, so it definitely makes sense. Kira in the bottom right is down 0-2, and he's going to have to get his defensive shoes on. Otherwise, he might fall apart in this. That's such a quick gateway, that's for sure. So super quick gateway to start us off here in this best of 5. Game number 3, PartinG leading 2-0. Similar drops down to the side. We're going to be seeing the refinery, the racks, all of this being added in. As we get ourselves up and running. So, yeah, going into the next couple of moments, we'll see exactly what Cure goes. Oh, I like this already. I feel like this is a good sign, the wall off, because at the very least it means high ground expansion, which initially is obviously like, you know, double thumbs up from me when it comes to defending against an early gateway unit. So in general, this is actually, I like what Kira is doing here. Actually, just blindly has got the answer for what PartinG might be setting up for. As that nice quick cyber core starts up. And we do have this probe making its way now down to the bottom side of the map. So away we go. Probe's going to come down here, drop a pylon in. And yeah, I mean, I guess he's going to proxy something. Okay, well, I mean, this is going to be like a super fast Stargate, if that's what his plan is. Is that his plan? Just like the fastest possible Stargate? I thought it might be for like fast adept and stuff, but actually super fast Stargate could be very dangerous as well. I mean, this Stargate builds at 150. That's a pre-2 minute Stargate. I mean, I didn't even know you could do that. Voids question mark in the chat. I think it's just an Oracle, right? I don't think it's really well positioned for Void Rays. If you wanted Void Rays, you'd build it like here. Or like closer. I just think, I mean, it could be Voids, but you're gonna have to like rally the Voids to here, then here. It's not impossible for it to be Voids. I just think it's more likely to be perhaps at least an Oracle first. It could go into Voids. Not a bad call. And yes, we shall see as this Reaper goes to the top left. He's gonna notice there's no expansion. Immediately that's cause for concern, but he's got a full wall off, so he'll be like, oh, this is cool. Doesn't go to check the main base at all either. You notice there was a pylon missing if he did, and that's when he could maybe actually start picking up on the fact that maybe something's gonna happen. Okay, it is Void Rays. Wow, really nice call from the chat. Yeah, okay. He's actually doing this in a different place to where I thought he would. Because I'm thinking he's gonna come into the natural and like attack up this way, right? And that's not what he's gonna do at all. That's not what he's gonna do at all. He's actually just gonna shield battery on this side. In that case, the Stargate positioning makes much more sense, right? In that case, the Stargate position makes way more sense to me, as that's actually a really nice scout from here. Sees the Void Rays are coming. Yeah, this makes way more sense for the position of the Stargate. So I was being a little bit kind of close-minded about how these voids could go in or how these voids could work around, but there's actually a lot of space around this edge of this main. If you've got the shield batteries down here, that definitely works too. It's kind of hard to deny those shield batteries as well. So yeah, picking away at the first depot, and voids are going to start setting up. I mean, second void about to pop. Obviously, this is the Void Rays, which are that little bit better nowadays. They got that buff. It's been a hot topic in the DreamHack streams, for sure. And as you do see, this depot will go down. Man, this is just such a... I just thought with, like, the super speed as well, that he was really just going to look for the Oracle to get a mineral line so, you know, damage done so early, but I guess the super fast Voids kind of... I just didn't know if Voids needed to be rushed out so quickly, you know? That's kind of my, kind of the question that I had about it. Alright, well... Marines in the bunker, firing away. This Reaper comes in. That's going to be a pylon taking a lot of damage. I mean, if you get rid of that pylon, that's obviously an unpowered Stargate. That's a problem. That Void Ray nearly went down as well. And Parting a little bit distracted here or there, making a couple of mistakes. I guess this Void Ray is going to defend the Reaper. And that's nice. That was actually very close to going down. I'm building a lot of Cyclones. I'd love to just see Magfield Accelerator. I think it's actually really nice in this sort of stage of a game. If you're going up against Voids like this, like that, it's only going to help. And again, Vikings are pretty darn good in these sort of scenarios as well, so I can understand the one to go into reacted starport and to put the Vikings on double production. It's so expensive, mind you, but as you can see, it's affordable. Yeah, nice lock on with the Cyclones. He doesn't actually get the battery, though. He's a little afraid of those Voids, which is understandable. You can see Blink on the way as a follow-up, by the way. So Parting's on his way towards Stalkers as the next stage of this. I like that, the fact that he's just stopped with Voids, because now these Vikings, I mean, what are they going to do against Stalkers? There's actually another reason why Magfield would be good here. I mean, Vikings can land against Stalkers. I just worry that there's not going to be the proper setup for Stalkers, and if there's a lot of them, it could be problematic. Parting will take an expansion. I think you've got to realize, though, that there's only 3 Void Rays here, right? And that there's definitely something of a transition. I mean, it may not be easy to figure out what exactly that transition is, but I think realizing there is a transition, but then what do you do about it? You've got no add-on on the racks. You can move it somewhere. Or just build your own reactor at the front. I feel like that's risky. Right now, I think the most necessary thing would actually just be a siege tank, right? The siege tank defensively just adds so much. Even if it gets blinked on and eats up shots, it's still eating up shots, which means your other units are kind of free to fire until then. Two Adepts going to shade up into the base. Going to see the Dark Shrine on the way through. So another, I mean, Parting just getting a little bit of everything right now. He's like, oh, I'm going to get into Blink Stalkers. I'm going to go Dark Templar. And DTs have been a big part of his game plan, as that's a scan from Q to figure out what exactly is up. He sees the expansion. He sees the Twilight Council. So he's got a good read as to what the next step of this may be. That's already moved the starport off the reactor to a tech lab. So he's actually going to prepare for the DTs, I think, and get a Raven pretty early on. Kira's pretty smart, you know. he knows the possibilities, that's for sure. Hey, these Cyclones are on their own, though, so the Marines and Vikings fight on the left-hand side. The Stalkers are actually going to kill off all the Cyclones. I mean, these Voids are going to start dropping down. The Siege Tank will be targeted, though. There's only 2 Vikings left and a handful of Marines. Stalkers just going to blink in, and this might actually just be too much. Wow, that kind of came out of nowhere. Can you get a rewind on this, actually? Let's just have a quick look at where we're at. It's just a few seconds before this game ends. It's Parting. It's going to take it. That was not quite far enough. Let's go back to, like, here. This is obviously just... I mean, so the Stalkers catch all the Cyclones over here, so all 4 Cyclones go down. That's definitely a problem. This Void Ray fight's interesting. The shield barriers just keep them alive for so long. These Marines moved away. That's so sad, because actually if you get rid of this Void Ray faster, do you lose the tank? Ugh, it's so hard to say. But obviously if you kill off the... If you kill off the Void Ray that little bit more quickly, that would be... I don't know if you save the tank. I mean, I think you need to pull the SCVs to repair the tank. Then obviously, I mean, the Stalkers maybe get out the blink in, but then you can justify landing the Vikings, and the Vikings against Stalkers are pretty good. I actually think you just needed a few SCVs here, and you would have been okay. I'm actually surprised there wasn't any SCVs to help repair or anything, even if you're just repairing the Vikings, you know? That's kind of a sad ending, because I feel like Q had the means to defend that. I don't think Partin should have won right then and there. GG's.